Hey there, comic book friends! I'm Travis, and it's time for No Capes, where I talk about comic books that don't have to do with superheroes, and or Ethan doesn't read them, or doesn't review them along with me. So, this is probably going to be relatively fast. These are books from 2 weeks ago, because of course that's how far behind I am on talking about books, but I felt like I wanted to talk about some of these books other than just maybe zipping through all of them like I did 2 weeks ago. So in no particular order, we're going to start right off with Bedlam. This is issue number, I want to say, 10. Issue 10. Tell you the truth, when I got this book, this was the issue that I was going to have be kind of a deciding factor on whether or not I continued on with the series or not. I like bits and pieces of it. I find the artwork fatiguing. It's very muddy and doesn't really match up to anything in my head to make it feel like it feels like it's a particular type of comic. I think some of it is from kind of the mimicking Rezio's art. Parts of it do work. The old Matter Red stuff looks fine because it's in grays and reds, and that works. But then when we get into the rest of the comic is just a little too on the muddy side, is what I want to call it, for me to really enjoy the book as far as the art goes. I'm just not that excited by it. So this was going to be the issue that made me decide whether or not I was going to continue on with it or not. I'm going to continue on with the book at least to the rest of this arc. Enough questions and interesting things happen in this issue to really make me go, what the hell is going on? So I want to know that, and the art isn't deterring enough for it to actually completely push me away from the book. I was trying to question where we were going, but I can kind of see some of that. I'm really interested in it. That's really cool. The stuff that happens with the first superhero, the first in this at the end of it is crazy. I can't wait to see what happens with that. There's a weird part in here though where Fillmore is with that's the supposedly fixed version of Matter Red. Fillmore and the detective are storming into this school building where supposedly the bad guy is at. The detective gets shot and she's wounded, she's collapsing, and she tells Fillmore to go on, charge in, attack, or whatever, and that makes no sense to me. Fillmore has been nothing but flaky, really. I mean, he's a knowledgeable guy, but kind of weird and flaky. I don't understand why the detective would suddenly tell him to go charging in when he's not armed, he's not a policeman in any way, shape, or form. He's a consultant at best, and that part seems a little strange to me. But the meeting that he has with the guy that's the big bad actor in this that's causing all the problems with the pixelated face is really interesting. And I'm really wondering now if the reason he has the pixelated face when Fillmore's talking to him is because maybe he had something to do with Fillmore's reprogramming from being Matter Red to being what he is now. And so in the process of that reprogramming, he made sure and programmed Fillmore so Fillmore couldn't see his face. Kind of a really interesting idea. So yeah, there's some cool stuff going on in here. And like I said, the stuff with the hero at the end is just makes you go, holy crap. So pretty good. Other than, like I said, the art is really, I'm really having problems with it. But like I said, I'm gonna stick around for now. Really great book. 5 Ghosts issue 7. If you're kind of heard stuff about this book and you might be interested in picking it up, this is a great place to jump on. You aren't gonna know all of you aren't gonna know the heavy portion of Fabian Gray, our main character's backstory. But you don't need that to enjoy this starting out of this new arc and whatnot. And if you like this, then you can go back and pick up the trade. It's very reasonably priced. First 5 issues, it's like $10. And then issue 6 came out last month. It was just a solo story, which is really great too. So really excited about this. We get introduced to a new character, somebody else from Fabian's past, a master thief who steals some sacred treasure map that she's taken to Fabian Gray, and they are going to secure a ship and go a pirating or go treasure hunting, and really kind of excited to see where that takes us and whatnot. This book isn't a really wordy book at all. It relies heavily on the visuals and graphics that are there, and does an amazing job of that, of just being really fun and really action-packed adventure feel to it. Just lots of fun as far as the comic go. I definitely recommend it and enjoy the book. It's been lots of fun. Saga issue 16. Continuing to be a outstanding book. Of course, I really enjoy Saga. We get kind of an interesting twist. One of our technology-based people, which I can't remember what they're called right now. All I can remember is the Moonies. But the other half, the people that's hunting down our main group have told the reporters this kind of far-fetched Ilana's actually some sort of a deep underground spy. Man, I hope that's not the case. I hope that's just him trying to throw our investigative journalists off the path, because I'll be pretty bummed out if Ilana ends up being that. Still awesome, great conversations in here amongst the family. We've kind of come full circle in a lot of ways as far as Prince 4 getting to the lighthouse where the family's stashed at. We also get things kind of fixed to some degree with the will and Marco's ex-fiance and that sort of stuff. They get off the planet they're on that's corrupting them and whatnot, and they are also now at the same planet where the writer's at and the rest of the family and stuff. So it's really interesting, and it's interesting. The person who took Marco's ex-fiance's virginity is in this thing. I mean, as kind of a head messing with their kind of thing that the planet does, as it makes you see what you want to see to keep you there and does whatever it does to you. Really kind of bizarre and interesting, as per Saga is. Still a really fun issue. Things are now picking up speed as we ramp into this potential clash of a whole bunch of people they're gonna happen, and very exciting stuff. Pretty Deadly issue 2. A couple weeks ago I was on the Hangout. I hadn't read the book yet. Everybody else on the Hangout pretty much had read the book, and they didn't have a lot of great things to say about it. They said they loved the art. Beyond that, they didn't like it. They thought, some of them thought that it got too folktale-y, or that it was confusing, or those sorts of things. And I'm going to disagree, to a large degree. I understand what's going on. I thought first off, let's talk the art. The art, I agree with everybody else, is absolutely gorgeous. I love the way the characters are portrayed. I love the different body shapes that are here. I mean, stereotypical comic book, they got a naked person. They have this prostitute in here. Typically, most comic books would draw that female as some, washed waist, overinflated kind of a person, and instead this woman looks very natural, and I think that's really awesome. That portrayal, that look, that feel, it just feels right and feels really cool. To me, the story runs pretty solid. It tells you exactly what's going on. It gives you what's going on with the guy who had this binder, and let me talk about the binder in a few moments, because there is something about that bugs me, about him having had this thing and who he passed it on to and the consequences of that. We find out in here, it seems to me pretty clear that Big Alice is this character who's somehow working for Death in some fashion. She gets into a conflict with Jenny, who is the daughter of Death, shows up to deal with Alice and her goons, who are attacking this household that Fox and the girl who wears the vulture cloak were hiding at. Major conflict there. They also found Jenny, and they would tell Jenny that Dad says you need to come back, and she basically says no and ends up killing Big Alice is what it looks like, and a pretty cool and epic fight. The one part of it that got a little bit confusing is there's a point in here where the Vulture Girl's talking about the fact that she had a dream, and her kind of dream sequence is the same colors and look as what's actually happening in the fight as Alice and her goons are beating up the people who are at the home that Fox and the girl in the Vulture costume were hiding at for a while. So that part in there a little bit, so not being able to differentiate the two. But I thought it was pretty clear, and I'm really loving it. Like I said, I love the look and the feel of it. Maybe the dead bunny and the butterfly thing at the beginning, maybe that's a little confusing. Not sure exactly how that ties in. I mean, the front opening cover talks about the fact that it's supposed to be telling that they're the ones that are telling the story. I don't know that maybe 100% works. But I think it's cool enough and mythologically enough and a bent of folktale. I think that's the best word to use for it. Enough, along with being a Western and stylized. I still think it's a really cool comic. I mean, is it super strong? Maybe not yet. But 2 issues, I think you need to give it more of a chance than that. I don't think it's a horrific mess or anything like that. I think it's interesting, and I think it needs to be given the ability to stretch out and see exactly where it's going to go and whatnot. I don't know that has to be answered in a single issue, because if it is, as I was talking with some other people a couple days ago about this, if it is, there are a lot of comics that a lot of people consider great comics that would never make it in today's market. Sandman. If you look at the first 6 issues of Sandman, those first 2 or 3 issues weren't strong pieces of work. At least I don't think. I mean, if you really honestly look at them, I don't think 100% Neil Gaiman knew where he was going and exactly what he was going to do. I think he kind of got into the groove of that after that first arc and whatnot and started moving forward and stuff. If those first couple issues were given as heavy scrutiny of it's got to be this perfect thing, like there is some of this kind of this book and a few other books that are out right now that I think could be potentially really special books. They all have a certain feel to them, a old Vertigo type feel to them. That we're not going to get great works because the potential for great works because we immediately want it to be what those things ended up being at the end of their tenures, I think. With a few exceptions. I mean, I think that issue number 1 of Saga was pretty mind-blowing right off the bat. Yeah, so I'm sticking with the book. I'm really enjoying it. I love the feel of it, and the way it looks is just outstanding. So, Revival issue number 15. We start drawing some lines here, or we find out that that we're working on doing some detective work to try and figure out who killed Emma, basically. And she enlists her ex-husband, which is some pretty funny stuff in there, to help her out because he hangs out at the university because she thinks just the professor is the person that killed her. You got that's now really becoming front and center of that investigation. You've also got our little girl who is in this, who has something really horrible happen to her. I mean, beyond all the stuff, the carving of the eyelids, the last couple issues and whatnot. Some great lines of here and some really emotional kind of jerking at you as a parent kind of things happen in this one for her. We get the townspeople and our resident survivalists, I don't know what you want to call them, we're all about America and the government sucks, trying to take our stuff. There's going to be some serious conflict there with just the regular people versus these barricades and controls that are on them. That's going to be some crazy stuff going on there. As far as that goes. Just a really solid book, in my opinion. It's really, really interesting. It has this great serialization to it. I will continue to say that this book really feels to me like what I felt like when I was watching Twin Peaks, when Twin Peaks first came out, the TV show. It just has that kind of a, there's just, you keep seeing these new odd characters showing up and different odd things going on and whatnot. It's really, really interesting. Definitely enjoying it. Hasn't lost anything from me 15 issues in. Letter 44, issue 2. I continue to really like this story. I find it fascinating. You know, what's happening, the people in space, what they're dealing with, the pregnant woman, you know, what their duties are. There's some potential hallucinations going on from some of the space people shooting off guns and stuff. We get our president being exposed further to what's really happening in this place and whatnot. There's a debate. The art isn't necessarily outstanding. I think it's serviceable to tell the story, though. You know, I might be a little more excited if it had a different style of artists on it. I mean, we have talking head moments. They literally are just talking heads, and nothing's that interesting about that part of it. But there's just enough. The story itself is just really interesting ideas, and I think we're going to get a really cool delivery as this book moves forward, both with what's going on with the president and what's going on with our investigators who are out there in space trying to figure out what is past this veil and mining the asteroid belt. Really, really cool. The Massive, issue 17. Still enjoying this book. We get this kind of a final conflict between Callum and this Nordic man who he's had conflicts throughout the years. We find out some more history between the two of them. You know, the fact that Callum was almost thrown in prison, managed to escape that, and then our Nordic man here ended up sending goons to beat the hell out of him and told him if he ever came back there, they'd finish him off the next time. They get into a conflict in the sea. It's kind of a role reversal in the fact that Callum is in the slower boat and they are in the faster boats. They basically attack Callum and kind of beat him at the time. And then there's kind of a fatal answer. Callum has a final answer to this man deciding that he is not going to deal with this crap anymore and is going to take matters into his own hand and have a more permanent fixture than their old way of doing things. So pretty interesting. Like I said, still really enjoying it. It's just kind of a really interesting story that's going on. Am I saying interesting too much? Black Science, issue 1. I have to say, I love this book. One of the biggest reasons I love it is the art. The art feels like, it reminds me of, there used to be a old used bookstore in my neighborhood when I was a kid. I would go into that, and the sci-fi section was basically loaded with 1950s, 60s, and 70s sci-fi and fantasy covers, and they were all these kind of crazy painted, really kind of abstract, strange, far out space type settings or that sort of a thing, and I really loved that as a kid, and this book has a lot of that feel for it. Visually, it's really interesting. I really like the characters too. Our main character, you know, he builds himself as being this kind of a person of chaos and change and not being tied down to the establishment and attacking that wherever he can to stretch out and branch out and be more, because he doesn't want to be stagnant and all those kinds of things. So he could potentially be a bad guy. I mean, because most people, quite honestly, like law and order and everything to be, most things to be routine in life. But the guy also has a moral code, and he shows up in here. You know, he's got mere minutes to escape and get back to where he needs to be at. He still saves alien people who just look like they're in trouble along the way, which I thought was really cool. There's other cool moments in here where he has an improvised weapon where he's literally using the head of one of his bad guys and a tongue to lash out and attack people, which is pretty freaking cool. You got this larger intrigue. They've got this machine that's obviously jumping them through either dimensions or time, kind of a thing. Somebody has sabotaged that. So it's interesting. You've got two kids that potentially are involved. That could be even more elaborate. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff that's potentially going to happen in this book, and it looks just freaking cool. So I'm all pretty excited about continuing on with this book. You know, I'd like to see more of these frog people, fish people world that they're in, but I'm perfectly okay with it jumping on the next thing if each of these places are going to just be just as wild and crazy as the last one. Curious to see how long they can maintain rapidly jumping between places, but still, very, very cool. Very, very cool production. And finally, Sledgehammer Lightning War, #1 of 3. Mike Mignola cover there. Lawrence Campbell does the artwork on the inside of this book. I think it's a really interesting book. I love this character. It's basically a guy is trapped inside of this robot armor, and the guy who's originally the robot armor is gone, and another man, his soul has landed inside of it instead of going on to wherever your soul goes to after you've died. And he's very conflicted by that and doesn't want to do anything. And we're in the middle of World War II, and the Nazis are destroying lots of stuff. And the first part of the story is just a conversation of them trying to figure out how to convince him to go and help their one of their men that is captured someplace, and he does so. And we also get to see Hitler in this, which is interesting. I don't think I remember seeing actual Hitler in any of the Mignola Universe books. And it also has the Black Flame in it, which is a really cool character that reoccurs through the Hellboy universe. Now, you don't have to know the Hellboy universe to read this book. If you do know the Hellboy universe, there are little, like quasi Easter eggs or people that you know from other stuff, but you don't need to know them for the frame of reference for this. But all really cool, really interesting. And that is it for this No Capes. I'm sure fairly quickly, as fast as things can get processed and uploaded and whatnot, there'll be another No Capes because I got another week. Because these books, as I probably forgot to mention, were from 2 weeks ago, which probably was, if I look at my calendar here, would have been for the last week of November. Yes, the last week of November. So very quickly, I'll be having the first week of December books here up. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I will catch you in another video.